what I thought I'd talk to you about today is not particularly fitness, but it's things that will help you to put your brand out there to the public, which should help you grow your business. So in this day and age, everyone uses Canva, PowerPoint, basically tries to be their own graphic designer. You can have someone like me do it, studied it for 4 years, worked in ad agencies for 10 years, but people often just want to do something quick and use software they can do themselves. So I've outlined the top 10 tips and mistakes for you, because it does have a big impact on your brand. There's a couple of examples in here that would particularly damage your company if they were on the wall of your new facility or out there online for your business. So the top 10, some are quite obvious. Using too many fonts is one of those ones. PowerPoint, this is where you'll see a lot of this. If you build your own PowerPoint displays, people get carried away and it just looks like a mess. You know, something's Jurassic Park, something's a wedding font, you know, it's overwhelm. So your best practice is to have 2 fonts. One might be a bigger display font that is a bit more funky, and the other fonts throughout the work for your copywriting should be more like this. So a bit less distracting, easier to read, and that way people take away the message rather than get confused by the content. So too many fonts is number 1. Number 2 is poor font choices. So this one gets a real bad rap in the design world. It's called Comic Sans. It was trendy in the 80s, maybe for a little while, but it helps a bashing. You never use it. Never use it on your design work. Here's a couple of examples of what poor font choice can look like and where it's a wrong fit for your business. So this one here, obviously it ties in well. It's more of your wedding font. Paired with fitness, not so good a fit. Whereas on the end there, you've got something with a bit more impact, which would work well in fitness business. I think I used that when I had the gym at Concord in some of our work, because it's just a bit more punchy. Typesetting errors. So these are quite good. You might have seen some of these online. I see a lot of this because I follow design. But yeah, they're pretty self-explanatory where spacing in your text can go wrong. Yeah. What we call it is kerning. That should say Kurt. And that should say click. So kerning is what you call that. It's the space between 2 letters. When you get it wrong, a few millimeters, as it says there, can really ruin your message. Typography is not just picking your font, it's how you use your font. Professionals use a lot of terms you might not have heard of. These are things that day in, day out, we adjusted in the design studio, the ad agency I worked in, and it was fiddly, and you get right in there and you massage it so it's right. Some computer typefaces make that easy for you. Others really hit the mark, others really miss it. So this is where you want to look into that. Tracking is a little bit more easy. Kerning's a space between your letters, whereas tracking is spreading your letters across a sign. So it can be effective when used well. Paragraph errors. This is probably more your big brochures in your copy, or a booklet you might have produced, an ebook, recipes and whatnot in there. So you don't want long lines of copy that stand way out above the rest of the paragraph. Something like this is much more suitable and easier to read. Centered is one you often see used poorly. Just looking at that, you can see that this is probably about the limit you'd ever want to center for copy to read. You could potentially get away with it, but it's not ideal. Whereas left aligned is a much better way to lay out your text on a brochure or in a Word document.
What about that?
You can justify it.
But that kind of looks funny too.
It
doesn't
does, yeah. That's I didn't mention it there, but a lot of people will justify it, and it will pull your spacing out, and I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, left aligned is really the go for long blocks of copy. You can have it in 2 columns as well. And that's often when people will justify it a little bit more, but still left aligned is easier to read, and it gives you the nice in and out or rivers down the side.
So do you increase readership if you do 2 columns compared to one long?
If it was a lot of copy on a page, like an annual report or a prospectus. I was trying to think of something we do in fitness that would have that much copy in it, but there's not as much.
Well, if say you're doing an A5 brochure, are you better to do on the back, you're writing a copy, to do long copy or do 2 columns of copy and put
generally a heading and a subheader at the top could be good right across, but then if you did have a large block of copy, you could break it into 2 columns, because you'd have 2 blocks of that essentially, which would make it easier to quickly read down rather than reading right across. People tend to lose interest with that, which is another one here. If you were to read that, you're typically going to switch off if it's not well formatted or it's broken up. That's where it can be more of a problem, whereas that's the exact same block of copy there, but just easier on the eyes.
Can you go back one slide?
It's the exact same block of copy.
Such a difference.
Yeah. That's one thing I was talking about with your ad copy we did recently, Matt, that bigger chunk of paragraph. It worked better when we broke it up into smaller lines, easier to digest. Leading is another thing we talk about when we're doing design, and that's the space between your lines. So when your text here is closer together, whereas here you've got a little bit of room to breathe there, also makes it easier on the eye, easier to read. You can see that, yeah. And that's something you can do in Word. You can adjust it. They call it line spacing in Word, but leading is the technical term for that. The other one that I see a lot, especially with Canva and these little quotes that people use on Instagram and Facebook, is all capitals. You can see from there which is more readable. I think the lowercase just flows. It's easier on the eye. It's easier to read.
Seems like it's yelling at you as well.
Yeah, that's what they say with caps as well. It is yelling at you. Potentially good in a heading or a subheading, but not in a block of copy.
You're right with Canva, some of them you can't put them to lower, like it is.
Yeah.
And if you've got a guide and it's font you typically use, I think that's what happens with a lot of our ones. It's not a choice. Change font, that's the choice.
Yeah, something with better options perhaps. Spelling and grammar, I haven't put a lot in there on this one, but using the tools that are available to you are really important. Most programs have a spell checker, which is an obvious one, but if you've typed up some copy for a blog post or a flyer or a Facebook ad, I'll take it from the Word file I get from a client, or if I've typed it up myself, I'll paste it into Grammarly, and it will tell you where things can be changed to make it more readable.
Is that a subscription, Adam, to Grammarly, or
you can get a free version.
I use it for free.
Yeah, I've paid for the extra stuff that comes with a paid version, but the basics of it would be really beneficial for everyone, and it is free to get started with it. Highly recommend it. 7 is overcomplicating it. Less is more. You see it sometimes on flyers. I picked up one when we were getting coffee earlier, and there's just a lot on there. Like they say on there, depending on where you work and where you go in your day, you can be exposed to up to 5,000 ads a day. So you want your stuff to cut through and be more readable. More white space allows for that. It's easy to overcomplicate something, or to think you need to tell them everything on that flyer or that ad, but often enough to pique their interest will get them to take the next step, and that can be directing them to a website or having a QR code. And these days, your phone, you don't need a QR code reader. If you open the camera over the QR code, it will take you to the website. It will ask you, do you want to go to this website? So it's a good... Yeah, we did this recently when I was studying at TAFE, and they've got a poster there, and even on the Android it did work. One of the ladies thought it didn't work, but it did work. My phone's obviously better.
And it's faster, much faster.
Yeah. The other thing I often come across with people and trying to do their own work is images that aren't relevant to their brand. So they say that there's more images uploaded per day now than there were in the whole 20th century. So with Instagram and everything, it's just insane how much imagery we get presented with. Stock images can be good. This one obviously is more of your contours, curve, older lady market. Whereas this one is more gym-based and probably more suitable to most gyms these days. They don't have the pink dumbbells, you know, but it's a similar target market, but a more appropriate image for the brands that we all work with. Highly recommend getting your own photos done though. Best practice for your images as well. For print work, 240 to 300 pixels per inch will give you a nice crisp image when printed. Up to 72 if you don't scale it up will work online. 150 will still be that little bit nicer. And you can obviously see the difference there when you use an image that's too low quality. You get the pixels, you can see the blocks in the image. That's not what you want when you're designing stuff and putting your brand out to the marketplace. It just lowers you as a professional. Colours as well. I could go on a whole nother seminar about colour. But your best practice is to avoid colours that clash. Choose colours that work well together. RGB is what you'd call screen image, whereas CMYK is more your print image. When images go to a printer or for brochure work, they're normally in CMYK. Maybe not something you do yourself, but something your designer would look after you. This coolers.co is a great resource to pick colours that do match well for your brand. So it's free. You go onto that website, you can type in your primary brand colour and it'll put a few colours next to it like that. Once you find one you're happy with, you click the lock button and then you hit another button. It'll load up and change the next few colours again until you get a palette of a few colours that work really well together. Your other option is to upload a photo and it'll give you the primary colour out of it and some that work well from the colours used in that photo, and then you can mix them through your layout. So some of us have quite established brands, but if you were going to build yourself a personal brand or a new brand, that's a great tool to get your colours selected for your brand. Inconsistent branding is the other big one. All big businesses will have a brand guidelines for their business. It's the how to and the how not to use those brand resources. So it will cover the logo, the colours, the fonts, everything will be in there. you shouldn't use it. Your logo, for example, is red and grey. You wouldn't want to see it anywhere in purple. It's just a no-go. Facebook, I've put the link there. That's the whole brand guideline for Facebook, and if you want to explore building your own brand guidelines, that can give you a really good insight into what should and shouldn't be included and what should happen and what shouldn't happen as well. They've got some great examples in there.
I think that's a key for fitness businesses, because you just see their brands
Butchered, isn't it?
They just screw it up themselves.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, I'll do this so it looks a bit different.
Yeah.
I'll do this and it looks a bit different.
You're watering down your brand.
Yeah.
People should see you in a particular way, and if you bastardise it too much, it's not a great thing. Obviously, if you're raising money for breast cancer charity or something, throw some pink in the mix, but day to day, stick to your brand. It's really important. So they're the top 10 mistakes that I come across. So that's why I've thought they'd be of value to all of you guys as fitness professionals.